Hey, what's up, friends and family? It is Thursday, May 7th, and just I know it's a little bit later than I've done some of these videos, but if you've talked to me, I said I am not scheduling a specific time or even specific days. I'm just going to commit to doing 3 or 4 of these devotions a week. And so if you're one of my friends, hey, man, I'm glad that you're here. Joining us, and hopefully it's a benefit to you. Really, we're just reaching out for our church family to try a way for us to stay connected, and to do some growth, and to kind of talk about what we talk about on Sunday mornings, and just to give a little bit more emphasis into that, and to share really some thoughts that I have of that previous week's message, that previous Sunday message, as we prepare to go on our next step. And so I thank you all so much for joining us. I am glad that I'm here. Like I said, it's a little bit later today than usual. Today was a good day for us. I got to hang out with Gabe. I made my office over where he has his horses. And so he rode horses. I did some work, and so it was a great day being out there. I was gonna do this from there, but the signal internet upload and download speeds, I didn't think that they were quite good enough to have something that would be done well. And so we just kind of blew it off, and decided we'd do it now. And so if you're like me, you're probably getting ready for dinner or already having dinner. I've got some pork chops on the grill outside. And so we're going to do this quick as those things are in my smoker. They're going to be good to go here in just a little bit. But hey, today we've been talking about, or this week we've been talking about power, right? And so, or I'm sorry, not power, trust. But as an element of deepening our relationship with Jesus, right? Saying, how do I fall more in love with Jesus? And maybe more so, how do I become a devoted follower of Jesus, a devoted disciple, a devoted person, somebody who is in this relationship with him for the long haul, through thick and thin, and things that of that nature. And really as being a discipleship path of how do I grow in my faith, right? And for so long, for many people, there's been this list of things, right? If you want to grow in your faith with Jesus, then cut these things out of your life, add these things to your life, and let's see what happens. And if you're anything like me, what happens is if as soon as you fail in one of those aspects, you don't or don't take away something out of your life, or you don't add something into your life, you feel like you cannot move on. And so while there's a lot of things that those steps encourage us to do, I think putting the emphasis on the steps over the relationship ends up finding people who may say, I believe in Jesus, but they are not really devoted to him. Devoted in a way that it changes their life, what they're doing, their decisions impacts everything that they do. And so I want to have a relationship with Jesus where he impacts everything that I do, all my decisions. When I'm thinking about current events, when I'm having my conversations on Facebook, when I speak with my neighbors, I want these things to impact me. And I love that Jesus says, first and foremost, I want you to love me. Then he allows for us to have space to wait and to get to know him better. But there's also this promise that he gives to us, right? And I think the loving and waiting are the elements that we need to throw into our life. Another element that we need to have is trust, right? Which is big in any relationship. I remember being in school, in high school and junior high school. If we had one of those white papers posted on the wall that said, what do good relationships and friendships need to have? Trust was always up there. Everybody always said trust. We need to trust that person. We need to trust that person. And I think what that trust was that person would come through with what they said they were going to do. That they would allow me trust that I would be able to let down barriers and really be who I am in front of them. And we got to trust that if I enter into this relationship with you, that life is going to be great on the other end. We will continue growing together. And so Jesus tells his apostles, his disciples, he says, wait here because you are going to receive power. And I think one of the things that we have to understand or one of the things that we need to trust Jesus in is that he is going to deliver on what he says. And so the disciples stay in Jerusalem because Well, because Jesus told him to, but I think there's an interesting thing there. He says, you will receive power. If you wait here, you're going to receive power. And I'd just like us to think about that word power for a little bit. Right? We're going to receive power. And power is an amazing thing. Right? And if you follow along on our website at holychristian.org, you're going to find that in the devotion I wrote there, I wrote things like power is an amazing concept. Right? It's the flick of a wrist on a motorcycle, and all of a sudden power pushes you forward. Power drives your car. Power is what you need in order to have your phone working, right? You want to have that power. Power lifts weights. Power puts your feet onto the ground and then lifts your body upright after you've been laying down for an evening's rest, right? There's amazing power, and power also though has the ability to divide and to separate separate things out of your life or push things out of your life that shouldn't be there, but also to pull things in. And it's interesting that many wars have been fought over who holds the power. Many relationships have been destroyed over who holds the power. And Jesus says to the disciples, wait here, because so many people live their lives trying to gain that power. Right? If I can get out of my house, and grow up, I'll have the power to make my own decisions. If I get the right job, I'll have the power to influence others. If I save up enough money, I'll have the power to decide whether or not I want to go to work. This power thing is a constant struggle for many, many people. Even today, it doesn't take very long to open up our Facebook feeds or scroll beyond this video and find that there are people who are arguing over the power. Who has it? Who has the right to do things, and what can they do? And here Jesus tells to the apostles, I'm going to send you this power. Here's a promise to you. And it's a promise for all of us as well. But the kingdom of God, this good news that Jesus sent to us, means that we reevaluate the way that we do everything. Remember, I said if my devotion to Jesus is true, if I'm truly devoted to Jesus, that it's going to impact the way I think, the way things that I do, the words that I speak, the actions, my decision, life decisions, everything gets impacted. And so when I begin to think of it that way, how does power play into that? Well, I think the first thing we need to understand is that Jesus flips everything on its head. And while power for us usually is how do I make myself more comfortable? How do I make my life better? How do I fix my things? How do I go farther? How do I gain more? How do I be more? I think we have an interesting thing, example from a man named Paul, who writes a letter to the Philippian church, right? And so what is this thing that the apostles wait for is the same thing that Paul seems to be chasing after early on in his life when his name is Saul, and he goes after killing people and he's chasing people down. But later on in his life, Paul writes a letter to a church in a city called Philippi. And that church that he writes to them as he's sitting inside of a prison cell. Right? And I just want you to listen to these words. He says, I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at last you have revived your concern for me. I think indeed you were concerned for me, but had no opportunity to show it. Now that I am referring to being in need for what I have, learned to be content with whatever I have. I know what it is to have little, and I know what it is to have plenty. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well fed and of going hungry, of having plenty and of being in need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. In any case, it was kind of you to share my distress. Listen at verse 13. He says, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Right? Your verse might say, through the one who gives me strength. Here's the deal, is that Paul had grasped onto something. How does he say while he's in prison that I can be content in all things? I can be content if I have nothing. I can be content if I have a lot. I can be content if I'm hungry. I can be content at the dinner table. I can be content in all circumstances. In fact, Paul says, even right now, as I'm imprisoned, knowing that my next steps are going on to death, I can be content even in this matter. Paul started that letter off very early on in chapter 1 by saying that even though he's imprisoned, that it's being used to spread the good news of Jesus. And there's going to be power. And the promise to the disciples was, you're going to be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the ends of the earth. You're going to need power to do that. And Jesus says, I'm going to send that power for you. Paul is an example of somebody who's being Jesus' witness in all types of different places. And while he's in jail, he says, I'm still God's witness. I'm still the witness to Jesus and the good news that life can be different, not always easier, different. Right? That I can find joy and contentment even in the hardest of times. Friends, I would propose that in order for that to happen, doesn't take just simply me making a decision that I'm going to be content no matter what happens. It takes that power from God to be living in us and through us so that no matter where we're at, we can understand. No matter what circumstances are thrown at us, no matter what our environment looks like, no matter where we have to stay at or what we have to wear, we can understand this. Our mission does not change. We are to be the light of the world, that city on a hill that cannot be hidden. That's good news. And that good news is this, not that all the insecurities and all the conflicts of the world are going to disappear. Not that we're going to have all the food that we want or all the fattest wallets that we want, but that in all those things we can find contentment. And so maybe today, as we begin to say that we need to have some trust in our life, the thing we need to trust God for, trust Jesus for, is that same power that he promised to the disciples, that same power that we're promised we receive in baptism, is the same power that will allow us to get through all of these things. And so today, maybe just ask God, where's one part in my life where I need to trust that your power will enable me to get through it? And it might be in a relationship that you're having right now. It might be in a addiction that you need to shake off. It might be in some other temptation. It might be in just trusting him that you're going to be okay after this whole thing. It might be a letting go of some of your own stuff so that you can find contentment. But you need to trust that Jesus will hold you through that. And so, man, if you want to find yourself in a deeper relationship with Jesus, maybe today's the day you just trust him a little bit more and trust that his power will be sufficient in order to make you or allow you to find contentment no matter where you're at. Hey, I love you guys. High five each other, please, 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 please. I know as we get longer and longer and further along on this, this I don't even like saying it. I hate it's like nails on the chalkboard. But our situation right now is it seems like it's never ending, and we're trying to reevaluate how we live our life and what things are important. So I hope that you're staying connected with people. So high five each other by reaching out and connecting with 5 people this week. All right. God bless you. I love you. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.